Good thing I clicked over to Zoom just in time to see Tyler was at 1 to start the show and get the countdown in here. My name is Terry McBride. Welcome to MLB Live Before Lock from Stokastic.com. I'm here with my pal Gundacker. We've been knocking out a bunch of these Saturday shows lately, Gun. They tend to slide around the schedule, but we've been kind of locked in as a duo here, and I feel like we've been successful. I feel like we've been giving the people some entertainment, a good show, some good advice here. So happy to be back with you, buddy. What are you thinking of this slate so far? Just get right into it. Let's start with the thing that everybody out there is wondering. Which team are you willing right now to guarantee is going to score 28 runs tonight?
The Yankees. Hello? Matt Carpenter in the lineup. That's 2 homers.
I love it. Yeah. Judgy gets 2, Carp gets 2, and we roll from there. I like it. How's your Saturday going? You win anything last night? Anything interesting in the day slate today?
Yeah, I mean, so I had Blue Jay stacks last night, so that was good. Incredible game. Jaron Duran with his who was it a couple weeks ago that made that same play in the outfield and right field for them against the Yankees? I can't think of his name right now. It's right fielder.
It was Verdugo, wasn't it?
No, it was Verdugo. Arroyo. Yeah. Arroyo.
Where he's just looking up and like, I have no idea, and he panicked. Started like tapping his feet.
Once that happened, the life came out of the Red Sox, and I could tell that it was going to be a long night. Boy, I didn't think it was going to be that long, but hey, what a night for I was like half paying attention. I got a text from a buddy of mine that said, like, if you had the Red Sox plus 23 runs, you're currently losing. And I was like, holy shit, let me go see what happened. And saw a bunch of 40-point FanDuel scores from that lineup and just all over the place. Nice if you had a piece of it, and hopefully we can identify some teams. There were a couple other spots that really went off that we talked about during the show yesterday, me and Greg. So thought it was a good show that we had there, but hopefully we can nail some of these for today. Anything that you're seeing? Oh, by the way, guys, we're brought to you by Odd Shopper, in-house our little sponsor there. We'll talk about the Stokastic promo code. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Helps us out a ton when you hit all those things. We've got MLB ownership up at the site today for free, so you can check that out. Big important piece of the puzzle that we'll be talking about here. There's more. If you want to try our our tools and content for MLB DFS, now you can. We have set all of our tools and projections for night slates to be 100% free. So this is a great way to test out what we have to offer if you're on the fence about subscribing. But come on, if you're here watching, you just be behind the scenes here getting the good stuff. You shouldn't be on the fence. Let's put it that way. And we have one more special to drop in here at the beginning, live before lock special. You guys have heard about it a few times. We've got it coming back again over at BetMGM. If you bet $10 on any MLB money line tonight, you'll win $200 free. So you put 10 in, you get 200 out, no matter what you bet on. That's not too bad. So make sure you jump over to Odd Shopper, find a good bet to actually make so that you get paid on the bet and get your $200 for free over at BetMGM. There's a link down there somewhere in the description. All right, Gun, business is out of the way. What are the overarching thoughts on today's slate? Anything in mind? Any weather concerns? Anything like that you're looking at? So it looks like the second game of that White Sox Guardians game could have a appearance by rain, but for the most part, it's a pretty clear night. Always got to look at Atlanta, maybe keep an eye on Baltimore, but for the most part, still dealing with hot temps, good hitting environments, and for the reset button after the All-Star break, putting a lot of aces last night. I thought pitching might end up deeper today, but it's not that deep. There's still some good picks here, but we might get a good offensive night throughout the board, and every lineup is out, and it's an hour till. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Gotta love that. Having a lot of time to work with it. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. You get a little too into making changes, and with too much time, it can be dangerous. But this is the right amount. We can talk about every team pretty fully on the show. And I agree with you. There's a handful of top end pitchers, kind of the obvious guys that really stand out to me as being the priorities, and then a lot of meh and a lot of like targetable type pitchers. A few talented guys in what look like maybe short spots that they'll not necessarily get their innings. So we'll go through all of that. We'll talk about the different options, but I agree. I think we could see some offense here. Yanks sitting at the top of my power index again today, followed by the Braves, and showing a little bit of power across the board. So should be an interesting one. Why don't we dive in? We'll talk about the Yanks and the Orioles right off the top. Yanks in Camden Yards with their ace Garrett Cole on the mound. Cole, ton of attention, 11-3 on FanDuel, 10-4 on DK, drawing 44% ownership over there, 30-ish% on FanDuel. Jordan Lyles, not quite as popular, 0.5% across the board, 7,300, 7,700 DraftKings FanDuel. let's start with Jordan Lyles. Any reason to put him in any lineups at all today, going up against the Yankees, who, you can find some strikeouts from time to time, I suppose.
Yeah, you can get some backwards Ks against the Yankees, and we do at least have them almost at a 5% chance on DraftKings to be a top 2 pitcher, to be optimal, and he's not picking up any ownership, 0.5%. So there's justification out there, but you'd be pretty long-winded to convince me to grab too much of him. I don't have any right now. But I guess it's not the craziest thing to maybe go out there and muster out 14 from them if things went bad for our
But suffice to say, this wasn't like one of your target pitchers that you were talking about a minute ago.
Not at all. Yeah.
What about the guy on the bump for our team, the Yankees here? I assume you're going to be getting to a little bit of Garrett Cole. Are we going around the field, over the field, under the field? What do you think of Cole here? And just what's your breakdown of?
Yeah, 41% by the field on DraftKings, 28% chance of being a top pitcher here. He's definitely above most of the rest of the pitchers on the slate in terms of ceiling. So you got to appreciate that. And the matchup definitely gives you some strikeout potential, but the Orioles are becoming more and more pesky. At 40% on the field, I'm coming right under that, about 36% at the moment. I think Garrett Cole has double-digit strikeout upside in this matchup, and he certainly has a lot to pick up. I think if you watched the game yesterday, Michael King left, the bullpen is in shambles. You pay this man a lot of money, go out there, eat some innings. I would hope that they can stretch him for 6-7 innings here and really, really make a short bridge to closing this game. So I'm expecting a big pitch count for him, 110 maybe. So I'm going to lean on him a lot. I might even end up going a little bit higher than 36% on my next crunch, but he is my highest owned pitcher without a doubt.
Yeah, I expect he's going to land as my highest owned. I have a couple guys projected in the same range. So we'll see how it all falls. But I think for me at 30-ish% on FanDuel, I might not hit that mark just because I typically don't get quite that high. But if I'm around 25%, that's close enough to the field for me. And I'm relatively happy there. And I think he'd end up my highest owned pitcher there. So what about on the Orioles side of things? Since you're getting to an aggressive share of Cole, are you taking out any hedge stacks with the O's? They're completely unowned. They're very affordable. We know that if anything, Cole can cough up the odd home run, 39.4% hard hit, 8.2% barrel, 3.8% home run rate on the season to go with his otherwise excellent numbers. So any love for Orioles stacks here?
Yeah, a little bit, especially as an insurance policy to my highest owned pitcher. Yep. Cole's certainly been susceptible to the lefty power in the last 3 seasons. And even this season, a 1.2 homer per 9 to righty. So this is a growing, evolving Orioles team that puts up fights. Adley Rutschman in the 2 spots of fun bat. Anthony Santander had won yesterday. And Austin Hayes, he's got some power as well. And like I said, behind Garrett Cole right now is a bullpen in shambles. So if Cole does have an off day, he's got Higgy behind the dish instead of Trevino. They did that last game, and he did get his double-digit Ks, but he also gave up some bombs. So I think there's a chance that the Orioles could come through and be scrappy here. And if they dip into that bullpen, they got a shot. And we have them as the lowest owned stack on the slate. So you ain't got to give up too much equity to be there. And I think 2-3% is easily justifiable.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's just easy to do it. Everybody basically under 1%. Adley, the only guy on the entire team on either site drawing more than 1%. He's at 1.1 over on DK because he's a $4,000 catcher hitting second with a nice little prospect pedigree. So he makes a lot of sense to me there if you're stacking Orioles. And then it's really about, that top 6. I don't need to drop down to like the Rougned Odor, Ramon Urias level of the lineup. Although I do like to get to Jorge Mateo from time to time. I just like his speed. I wish he would get on base at more than a 25% clip. I've said this a bunch of times, but a guy who's hit 7 home runs, has 22 stolen bases on the year. He's somewhat serviceable to me as like a wraparound play for super cheap. They're cheap anyway, but if that dropped from, let's say, a $3,500 Ryan Mountcastle in the middle of the lineup, righty against Garrett Cole, maybe you drop down, grab a $2,400 Jorge Mateo, use him as the wraparound to the rest of the top of the stack, and maybe you pick something off there to be a little bit different. Not that you need to be different with this team, but that's kind of how I would think about working him in, but he's not a priority here for me. I assume the Yankees on the other side of this one, a little bit more of a priority. Like I said, they're top of my home run model. They're drawing some pretty nice power numbers here against Jordan Lyles. Who are we looking at from the Yankees? Are you excited to get to more than the field on them, or are you going to be kind of tempering your expectations here?
Yeah, I actually thought that they would be even higher, and we got them at under 7% on DraftKings. When I was looking at this board, I thought they would easily be the top owned stack, and they're not. They're barely in the they're not even in the top 5, right? So that gives us an opportunity on DraftKings to
and a big chunk of that DraftKings ownership is just Aaron Judge, from what I'm seeing,
Mm-hmm.
looking at the individuals. He's drawing nearly 20%, and then everybody else on the team is under 7%, which is leaving a lot of the stack on the table. On FanDuel, it's not the same thing. Judge is like 30, and then a bunch of guys are in the double digits, but reasonable double digits. But DK, yeah, that stands out. So keep going through the lineup there.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great lineup, and this lineup is really easy to handcuff to each other, 1 through 7. And Matt Carpenter's in the lineup. And I know we've had a discussion on his realness, his authenticity this season. And I like him a lot. And I also like that you can put him in the outfield on DraftKings and now play him and Rizzo and Judge and just have all of the power. And, in Camden, they pushed those left field walls back, but right field's still where it was. So that favors the Rizzos and the Carpenters. And the bomb detector, Judge and Carpenter are the highest in my model. And yeah, I'm starting to believe and buy into Matt Carpenter. He leads the league in everything ever existing this season.
Really does. Yeah, he's just been absolutely destroying the ball. I think the last time when he came up and I asked you if about it being real, I think he hit 2 home runs that day. So just, yeah, absolutely outstanding. 326, 448, 837 slugging percentage, a 512 ISO. That's bananas. 512 ISO over 106 plate appearances, 13 home runs. Yeah, you don't get much better than that. So I agree. You also pick up, he's got first and third eligibility over on FanDuel now. So you get a little bit of flexibility with him over there as well. So you can move some pieces around the board. Definitely like what I'm seeing for that DK ownership. I would be excited to be getting over the weight to the Yanks here. And I'll be getting to a bunch of them on FanDuel as well. I think, the back end of the lineup plays okay. Like the Hicks, I don't like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa for DFS purposes, but I do always bring up Higgy. I do still believe in the power in that bat. I know he struggled through most of the season, only 5 home runs, but he's still got a 49.5% hard hit, a 10.5% barrel rate. So there's the right power stroke there at 0.6% ownership for 2,200 on FanDuel that I can stick him into a lineup to differentiate. So I wouldn't sleep on Higgy either. Agreed. Anything else to call out from that game before we move on?
No, I'm looking forward to 14 runs from the Yankees.
Love it. I'm signing off for that right now. Let's jump to Marlins against the Pirates. Kind of a low-end game here. Max Meyer on the hill for the Marlins, taking on Jose Quintana on the mound for the Pirates. Quintana's drawing a little bit of attention, 5%-ish on DK, where he's 6,800. Nothing else ownership-wise to speak of on either site. Meyer priced at 8,100 on the FanDuel slate, not really drawing much attention at all. Quintana only 7,200 over there. Let's talk about that. Is there any reason to get to Quintana on FanDuel? I get it on DK as an SP2 for low ownership and a low price, but what about FanDuel?
Man, it's hard to really think that Quintana is going to be the guy you absolutely have to have. Typically not a strikeout guy, though there's some spike games in his game log for them. I think you have to hold your breath for the 6-inning quality start eligibility. You definitely can't bank on a win. I just don't think he's that necessary and has a common enough range of outcome for him to be truly optimal tonight. So I don't have any intentions to get to him over there.
So the reason I bring him up, he's projecting okay for me. And the reason for that is against left-handed pitching, the Miami Marlins have a 30th ranked ISO, a 30th ranked strikeout rate, and 30th ranked WRC plus, and a 26th ranked home run rate. They're just really flat bad against lefties. You mentioned not a big time strikeout performer, but a 21% strikeout rate, reasonably effective, 3.78 xFIP. I think he's my highest projected pitcher under the like $8,500 Blake Snell mark. Let's put it that way. So he's drawing a little bit of projection for me on my model. I might get to a little bit more than the 1% because he's so cheap. I think there's a touch of upside there. I just find it hard to believe, like you said, that he's going to really give me that competitive start with the Garrett Coles, the Brandon Woodruffs, and so on of the world. So a little bit to work with there, I think. I think he's more interesting on DK for that $6,800 SP2 price. Are you getting to him on the DK slate?
Not really. And
Okay.
it's because I'm getting more of the guy on the other side.
Okay. So talk to me about Max Meyer then.
Yeah. So Max Meyer, in the minors, and I know minor league numbers doesn't translate instantly to the majors, but in the minors, this guy was a pretty decent prospect. 61 innings, 69 strikeouts, and a sub-1 whip. That dog will hunt, and if it can find its way to the majors, I think one of the most transitional teams from AAA to the majors is the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's a big strikeout lineup. So at 6,100 on DraftKings for Max Meyer, he's becoming one of my long shot plays that I'm having probably way too much exposure to. But I just think at 6,100, right? That's home run numbers, right?
Sure.
Give me 14, I'll take it to the bank, handcuff you to a Woodruff, a Garrett Cole, and then opens up that money for those judges of the slate. So I have a lot of them, and it's just because I believe in his strikeout upside more than Quintana's.
Okay. I like that. I like that read. He's definitely a premium prospect. We just saw a lesser pitcher in Braxton Garrett. I think, at least in the long term, Braxton Garrett will prove to be a lesser pitcher. Maybe this kid's not as proven, but the pedigree and all of that says that this kid's going to be better. And we saw Braxton Garrett, go out and pitch a hell of a start against this team just yesterday, over, 6-7 innings, whatever he did. So I agree. There's definitely something there. And at this low of a price, this low of ownership, that's an interesting spot then. What about the bats then? Are you getting to bats on either side? Are you answering any of those Max Meyer shares with Pirates? Are you interested at all in Marlins bats going up against Quintana, since you're not going to be getting there and a touch of the field is? It's not like anybody's really going there, but a few people are going to have them as an SP2.
I don't have any stacks. I don't even have 3-minute stacks here from either side. I'd allow a couple of these guys to be checked off in the player pool, but I mean, these are really, really abysmal teams. If O'Neal Cruz falls in some FanDuel lineups or something like that, go for it. And for the Marlins side against Quintana, he does allow contact to righties. So if a Jesus Aguilar or somebody like that, lands into a big swing here, they can fall in the lineup, but I don't have any dedicated stacks.
Yeah, I like the Aguilar call out. He was one of the I was looking before. I had a one-off spot for 2,400 or less, and he was one of the few guys that was 2,400 or less that had a nice home run rating. He's sitting, looks like 26th overall in my model. So he's in, that territory where you get to very low owned, fairly cheap guys, but he's right up there ranking wise with some of the, Gleyber Torres, Austin Riley, Shohei Ohtani, Jorge Solers of the world. So kind of an interesting spot for him. So that's a good read though. Not a priority stack on either side of this. And it doesn't look like the public's really going to be there either. So I think we can move on. Let's jump over. We'll talk about the Rays and the Royals. Then we'll knock out a piece of business if there's something there to read. Luis Patino on the hill for the Rays. Good pitcher. Saw some pretty nice numbers over last season. Had some bumps and bruises as a rookie, but has good stuff. Just don't know how much of them we're going to see today. Going up against Brady Singer, medium price tag on Brady Singer, very low ownership. I'm not getting to a ton of Singer. I get it for the people who are for 7,600 on DK. What are you doing with either pitcher here? Are you getting either one of these guys?
No on Patino. Like you said, I don't know that he's long for this game. 65 pitches might be his cap right now. Might be. He threw 56 last time out. And Singer, no. But I did see that the opposing team, the Rays, is one of the most trendy stacks on the slate here, and that's kind of peculiar. But I guess it's maybe a result of the Royals bullpen, the weather here. Because Singer, I don't know. I guess if we isolate his splits against lefties, he becomes a lot weaker. But to answer your first question, no, not really on either pitcher.
Okay. I think Singer, the 23.4% strikeout rate, I can justify it a little bit going up against a fairly heavy strikeout Rays team here. A decent 3.52 xFIP to his 4.02 ERA. So I get it. He does allow some hard contact. He does allow some home runs. Definitely a bunch of lefty bats in that Rays lineup to worry about. And they're drawing a lot of attention. The attention doesn't work the way that it does with hitters and pitchers. For anybody out there wondering, where I'm not really going to take a shot with a pitcher like Brady Singer and just say well, the Rays are highly owned, so let me throw the pitcher at him. Where sometimes we'll say that the other way. Well, that pitcher's highly owned. Let me throw some bats at him. So not that kind of a situation. I am interested in getting to some Rays bets, though, going up against Brady Singer on the other side. And maybe similarly to some of these Royals, and it looks like the field's getting to them as well, going up against Patino and a lot of the Rays bullpen. So what are you doing with the bats on both sides? Let's start with the Rays. What are you doing with them? Because it looks like they're drawing a ton of attention, particularly Brandon Lau, one of the highest owned players on both sides.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest selling points here is it's 100 degrees in Kaufman and the wind's blowing out to left center. Matchup wise, I think both pitchers are attackable, but it's, you don't have a lot of faith in these offenses. So I guess you're just hoping for maybe bad hitting to beat bad pitching. And this Rays lineup, I'm looking at a bunch of red here. There's definitely some power. The Brandon Lau, Seaman Choi's, Brett Phillips, and those guys who tend to carry big strikeout rates. If we can neutralize that a little bit with Singer being a little bit more contact than strikeout, but he can still get them. Sure, I get it. I hate this ownership being where it is. We have the Rays right now at the second highest owned stack on the slate at 13%, but we do give them a double-digit chance to be a top stack. So I got to at least match that 10, 11%. But man, if this version of the Rays lineup fails, I get it. But I also understand that it's cheap enough that you could put a Cole and a Woodruff together and get you a full Rays stack and what's projected to be one of the highest game totals on the slate and probably the most positive hitting environment. So the heart doesn't love it, but the environment definitely justifies it.
Yeah, the environment was pushing that run total up. Both of these teams were at a 4.8 implied run total, drawing like basically even lines. So it's an interesting spot for offense. I'm going to try and get there. I'm going to try and dip, dodge, duck, and dive around the ownership here. To quote whatever Rip Torn's character name was in Dodgeball.
Okay. I thought it was a Duck Dodgers Daffy Duck reference for a second.
Oh wow, that would have been solid. Probably would have said it smoother too. But yeah, I'm going to try and get around some of that ownership. Like the Brandon Lau ownership concerns me, but I get it. Tremendous hitter. A lot of those other guys, not that popular, like G-Man only drawing 7.5 on DK, 11.5 on FanDuel. So there's some spots in the Rays side of things. On the Royals side, what are you looking at in terms of, are you getting to the MJ Melendez catcher leadoff spot for $5,000 on DK, only 2,500 and similarly owned on FanDuel? What are you doing with the rest of the lineup? Are you getting to any potential future Yankee Andrew Benintendi? What are we doing with this Royals team?
Yeah, Melendez is justifiable. I like that FanDuel price tag literally being half of this DK price tag.
Yeah.
Huge difference in quality of play, in my opinion. Bobby Witt, Andrew Benintendi, Dozier, Pasquantino. I love that 1 through 6. Really, those would be my most sought after targets. Whoa, targets. Hey, Tommy Brady. Yeah. Oh, I'm walking here. Vinny Pasquantino. I guess that was my okay. All right, makes sense now. Has my highest bomb rating. What are we doing? Yeah. So I do like 1 through 6. I've lost it. But my top dog here is probably Pasquantino. Okay. But I do like Melendez. I don't love that 5K catcher tag here because there's actually some decent catchers to target today.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we talked about one already that was hitting second, and was another interesting spot. And what was it, Adley Rutschman? So there's other spots to go to. I do like the power there with MJ, though. He's my leading Royal in my home run model. Vinny's 2. Right behind him, somebody that I would not necessarily sleep on at a very low price on dead minimum, actually, on both sites, is Nick Prado. He is a premium prospect. He's a more highly regarded prospect than Pasquantino or MJ Melendez. So don't sleep on him at the dead minimum and low single digit ownership. If you're going to Royal stacks, include Nick Prado from the 7th spot there. And then, yeah, a lot of the other obvious guys I think are in play there. A lot of low strikeout contact, some speed upside in like the Whit Merrifields of the world. So a lot of different ways to stack this one. Let's knock out a little bit of business. Stokastic MLB Plus. You guys love talking baseball with us. I hope you do anyway. I love talking baseball with you. I think Gun does. I like talking baseball with Gun. Get access to all the great Stokastic Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with the Stokastic Plus Platinum Pass. That includes access to all of the premium content, everything at the site, ownership projections, player projections, lineup builder, premium Discord, everything behind the scenes, the top stacks, the top pitchers, all the tools that we talk about. That's all included for every single sport that we cover with the Platinum Pass. If you only want the MLB pass, you sign up for the MLB plan. You can get 50% off any one of those plans, either the platinum or the MLB. 50% off if you use promo code MLB Live. 50% off your first week of any weekly plan, platinum or MLB. So jump over there, head over to the weekly checkout page and use the 50% off code MLB Live on the weekly package. I lost my place because I was improvising some of this read, and it just doesn't work out here at the end. Again, this, if for only new users, I assume that means is for only new users. So if you've signed up with us before, at least use a different email address and try and trick us. Please note, Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and is not included in our base package, but can be easily added at checkout. Join Stokastic Plus today and jump over there, guys. Really, I do encourage it. It's a great site. Tons of great content. Gun, we've got the Padres with Blake Snell on the mound and the New York Mets answering back with Chris Bassett. I'm interested in both pitchers in this one. They both rank out in the top 6 or 7 of my board here. So what are we thinking? Which one of Blake Snell or Chris Bassett do you like better here, and why?
For floor Bassett, for ceiling Snell. Is that a fair answer?
Fair. Can we let's stretch that out and elaborate on the why behind that for the people?
I mean, Snell has, amongst the highest strikeout upside really in the league when he's on. He just also struggles with command. He walks a lot of hitters. His whip is at 1.5. He has like a 30% K rate. So that's the Blake Snell experience strap on. And sometimes you don't always get the 30 fantasy points. For Bassett, he's going to throw strikes and he doesn't have a 30% K rate, but hey, 24, 25, that's still just fine, serviceable. So I think his floor is higher, but I think Blake Snell is the likelier guy day to day to drop a 30 plus fantasy point game, but he's also more likely to give you -5.
Yeah. The putting guys on and at the aggressive 13.8% walk rate is a little bit concerning. I do love the depth that Chris Bassett is capable of giving you. I think he's a good strikeout pitcher, if not, not to the level of a Blake Snell necessarily, but certainly capable of finding his fair share of strikeouts against the Padres lineup like this. What I really like about both of these guys, 7.9% ownership for 8,500 on Snell over on FanDuel, and 12% at 9,500 for Chris Bassett on the FanDuel slate. They're a little bit more popular relatively on DK for their respective prices, but I think it still works. It's not all that different when you consider the 200% ownership, the 2 pitcher spots. So I think they're low owned enough that I want to try and get there, maybe leverage up a little bit on the field. I feel like it's a little easier maybe to do on the FanDuel slate. So are you getting above the field on these guys, or are you going to be like at or around field ownership?
I'm a little below on Bassett, and I'm a little above on Snell, just selling out for ceiling.
Yep, makes sense that you're the way that you're breaking it down, looking at the ceiling there. So I agree that's probably the right approach, and it also jibes with the ownership on being lower on Blake Snell. You can attack that as a good tournament spot and lower price on Snell on the FanDuel slate, or on both slates actually. So you're getting the lower owned pitcher, lower price, and better upside there. So I agree. I think that's the better play and probably the spot that I would look to be above. I'll probably end up a little bit above the field's 12% on the FanDuel slate as well, but we'll see how that shakes out in the wash. What about the bats? Any love for the bats? I don't tend to get to too much San Diego. It hasn't really burnt me that many times this season. Manny Machado, obviously a fantastic hitter, but there's not that much else that I feel like I miss out on a regular basis in there. So do you get to any Padres here against a quality pitcher like Bassett?
It's only Substacks, if that, but I'm with you. This is all year long. They feel like a better real team than a DFS team, and it's a lot of Manny Machado, and that's about it, waiting for Tatis to come back. So no onslaughts here for the Padres.
Yeah, I agree. It's really Manny. I would take, a couple of shares maybe if it came together around like a Cronenworth, Manny, as much as I hate to say it, maybe Luke Voigt, maybe some Nomar or Eric Hosmer, a player that I actually do like. So maybe it's Hosmer in there, but I don't love it beyond Manny and Cronenworth. So it's difficult to get to. What about on the other side? The Mets are a team that I do tend to get a decent amount of. A couple good power hitters in there, a couple star caliber guys, and then just a lot of guys who are on base, create runs above average. There's 6 guys in the 9 starting players that create runs well above average here. So it's a stack I get to a little bit, and they're not that expensive. They're not that popular. Are you getting any Mets answering the Blake Snell shares?
Yeah, a little insurance policy. And again, you don't have to give up much equity. They're coming in with a 1.6% ownership on our top stack tool with a 3.4% chance to be the top stack. So some opportunity at positive leverage there if you do push to that 3, that 4, that 5. And like we said, Blake Snell's floor is the negatives. He could walk a couple and you put more ducks on the pond. That's a shorter game and it's more RBI potential, more run potential. And then there's some built-in pop here. Pete Alonso, Eduardo Escobar. I feel like every time he hits up against a lefty, he's like my sneaky homer every time. And people are like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Hey, that's what the bond detector says." And right now, he has my highest rating in this game for potential home run at 407. So yeah, I'll lean on him. I'll lean on Alonso and Lindor for some power. And like we said, some walk potential if they are patient at the plate here and Snell struggles.
Yeah, and this is the kind of lineup that could take advantage of that. You get Nimmo off the top of 354 on base, Marte 347, Alonso with all his power 341, Kana 368, even Luis Guillorme 369. So I mean, there are guys who get on base at a decent clip. And like I was saying, they create runs, they can sequence, they can create runs well, they can hit for power. So it's an interesting team against a guy with that high a walk rate. You could be locking a bunch of zeros in, but you could definitely be locking in some low-owned, low-cost upside. Escobar is a great call. No ownership at all to speak of it on DK for 35 and less than 1% for 25 on FanDuel. Like that a lot. So definitely going to be working on getting a few additional Mets shares into my lineups here. It doesn't look like they came out all that much in the sort. Any like super like back end sneaky types other than Escobar that you like there? Like, would you draw any shares of JD Davis from the back end of this lineup here?
No, I think Escobar is kind of like the sneakiest I'm getting 6 here. Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Maybe I grab a couple Luis Guillormes. I hope he gets on for 2,200 because he's 3 position eligible on FanDuel and the only multi-position eligible guy in that lineup on FanDuel. So maybe he helps me get to a few unique type stacks. That might be a little interesting, but yeah, low projection, low ownership, not an exciting player necessarily there. Let's move on. Game that is on the DK slate, not on the FanDuel slate. Game 2 of the Guardians White Sox. Connor Pilkington going for the Guardians, not drawing very much attention at 6,300. Lance Lynn, a little bit of love at 7% or so at 7,200 going for the White Sox against the low strikeout Guardians here. Do you like any shares of Lance Lynn, and is there any reason to roster Connor Pilkington?
Definitely no on Pilkington. Lance Lynn, you always kind of have to, hey, are we sure? No, yeah, no. It's been a rough comeback for him. There was a couple spots where he was giving us like Baltimore 8 strikeouts and then as little as 3 against Cleveland last time. Cleveland's just a team that even better strikeout guys with not returning from injury are in a tough spot. This is one of the hardest teams to strike out. So I'm very, very pessimistic about Lynn's opportunity of success here. At the same time, 7,200 Lance Lynn is a little different than when he was 10K. So I understand if you want to get some shares, especially on DraftKings where you can't really get them anywhere else. But I just don't see a big ceiling against this lineup.
Yeah, it's just difficult to find strikeouts. He is up to a 21.1% strikeout rate on the year and 11.6% swinging strike rate. The xFIP is at 407. He's not really walking too many guys. He's capable of giving you depth. He used to be that, workhorse guy who was going to pitch deep into every start he made. Dealing with injury and stuff and coming back from that, we're not really seeing that. But like you said, price down at 7,200. I can see getting there, but the ceiling is unclear. And with around 7%, like that's around what I want to be, like 7, 10, something like that. So if I'm just getting him with the field, there's probably better spots to move around on the board. So unenthusiastic here as well. What about the Guardians side of things going up against Lance Lynn, considering that we're really talking about them not so much in danger of scoring a ton of runs or their run creation or their power, but more just in putting the ball in play and not striking out. Does that lead you to any Guardian stacks here?
They're not quite as low this season for me as the Padres, but this is a team that it's hard to onslaught stack. So I tend to, when I do want to stack Guardians, just get to like 3-mans. It's centered around Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, guys like that. And then usually I throw one extra. Nolan Jones keeps breaking my power model. So he might be that 3rd man for me today when it comes to those 3. But I probably don't get the full 5-mans here, but I definitely will have a nice chunk of 3-mans to fill in some lineups.
Yeah, I agree. It would be three mans primarily for me on, both DK, and if it was on FanDuel, I'd be looking at the smaller stacks there as well. I do like Andres Jimenez. I feel like I was a little ahead of the curve on him this year, and I keep bringing him up. 11 home runs, 7 stolen bases, hitting in the middle of the lineup now. Still can give you a little bit of value, only 4,300 on that DK slate. So maybe don't sleep on him if you're going there, but not my favorite spot necessarily. Yeah, as much as Lynn has maybe struggled, I still don't love throwing bats at him and attacking him. What about throwing bats at Connor Pilkington, the lefty? 19% strikeout rate, a 4.72 xFIP, not giving up a ton of home runs so far, but a 41.4% hard hit, 12.5% barrel, and he walks guys at an 11.2% clip. So are you attacking Connor Pilkington with White Sox? And if so, who?
Yes. Man. All right. So we're going to do, we'll go with the baseball analysis first, and then we'll put in some pessimism at the end.
Okay.
White Sox against lefties this year. They're one of my favorite teams against left-handed pitching when they're full strength. And right now, they're looking a lot more like the team that I like to stack. Yasmani Grandal back in the mix. He's got a 200-plus ISO against lefties last 2 years, 963 OPS. Andrew Vaughn, Jose Abreu, one of my top power models. Tim Anderson, Yoel Moncada. This is a fun, more balanced lineup, really than we've seen in a while. And even on this season, they've been night and day versus lefties versus righties. Negative WRC plus generally all year against righties. A 125-ish WRC plus against lefties this year. It's a good spot. The asterisk, the disclaimer, is we do got some weather here, and it looks like there's a good chance that halfway through this game, some weather pops up. Remember, this is game 2 of a doubleheader. You wonder how patient they'll be to wait it out. So you kind of have to wrestle with that. But matchup-wise, without weather guessing involved, I love this spot for a White Sox stack. I love the upside of these guys. They're coming in at 11% own on our top stack tool. 8% chance of being a top stack. So they're not like super sneaky. They're still a top 5 owned stack. But I do love the spot for them.
Yeah, I think it makes a ton of sense. If they were on the FanDuel slate, I think I'd be hitting that hammer pretty hard. It does look like they're a little bit popular, but it's kind of primarily concentrated around Timmy Anderson, a little bit on Joe Moncada, a lot on AJ Pollock down in the 7 spot for cheap. So around some of the hitters that you just focused on, the Jose Abreu's, the Eloy Jimenez's of the world, there's fairly low ownership and good reason to get there. So I'm with you. And hopefully the threat of rain maybe cuts into that a little bit. Maybe they come in a little bit under owned, and that would make them even more of a priority for me. So yeah, if you're playing on the DK slate, I think the White Sox make a ton of sense over there. Let's move on with the Rockies with Jose Urena on the hill. 5,800 on DraftKings. No real reason to go there. 6,000 on FanDuel. Same story. Brandon Woodruff, on the other hand, 10K on DK, 10-3 on FanDuel. A lot of ownership going there. A lot of attention from me, projecting very well for me against this Rockies team. Rockies against a righty on the road. The Triple R has always been kind of a go-to target. So how much Brandon Woodruff are you getting to here?
Woodruff's my 3rd or 4th highest owned pitcher right now. So we love the upside of Woodruff, a 30% overall K rate this year. But if I got to be pushing back a little bit, I would like to see his strikeout rate to righties go up. It is down to 20% this season against righties with a 4.6 xFIP, and the Rockies are throwing out just 2 lefties. With that said, the Rockies on the road, I have a little less respect for it, and I think Woodruff is just a dominant pitcher. So I'm not going to let that scare me off too much, but it is something I'm going to be watching, monitoring throughout the night, and hoping that we can regress that 20% or progress that 20% to last year's 28%. So top 4, maybe top 3 own pitcher for me tonight. And I hope it doesn't fail, because I don't want an insurance policy this spot.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Not a pitcher that I love to attack. High strikeout rate type guy, doesn't put a ton of people on base. So definitely not really a spot I'm looking to insurance policy or a hedge back the other way. What about attacking Jose Urena with some of these highly owned Brewers bats? They're drawing a ton of attention on the stack there. So I didn't ask you, but I assume that you're not rostering Jose Urena. Cut me off there if you are.
Whoa,
but
bold of you to assume. Good Lord.
Really, I'm putting words in your mouth, and I apologize. Please take the floor and sell us Jose Urena.
No,
thanks. Yeah.
No.
So talk to me about some of these Brewers. Sell me this pen on the Brewers.
Yeah. So Urena, I know he's got 2.05 ERA, but that don't mean nothing. That expected ERA 4.86, 5.6 SIERA, a 1.4 WHIP, and a 10.6% K rate. That's not what you want.
That's low, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
About half the league average.
So the Brewers are just in a really good spot to consistently put the ball in play, and Urena has really struggled against lefties his whole career in terms of power. A 1.5 aggregate home run per nine the last 2 years against lefties. There's some lefties in the Brewers team. Yelich in the leadoff spot, Rowdy Tellez. I don't really look for Colton Wong to hit for power, but 188 ISO against righties the last 2 years, that's not nothing. So those are three guys I can lean on, and I don't really expect Urena to be too long for this game if the Brewers go the way they should. So then, a less than average bullpen comes out, and we get probably quality 8.5 or 8 innings of at-bats for the Brewers. So I do like the Brewers stack quite a bit, and we have them coming in as the highest owned stack. I'm undercutting that. Yeah, that 14% I have undercut. I am at I'm at 10%. And I'm fine with that. I think I get the combos I want for the really must-have guys in that 10%, and I don't have to go too crazy and stretch like the field does.
Yeah, and there's some bats that I can work with, like a Luis Urias. He's hitting 8th, but only drawing 9.2% ownership on DK, 11% on FanDuel, 3 position eligible on FanDuel for 2,600. I can work with that, even though he's hitting 8th for the home team. I don't love the lineup spot, but I can get there if he helps me offset some ownership. Hunter Renfroe, I wish he was a little less popular on FanDuel, but he's not drawing that much attention for 4,000 on the DK slate at 12%. McCutchen, 6.5% on DK at 4,300, hitting cleanup. It's another spot. He's not a lefty, but it's Andrew McCutchen still, 41.3% hard hit, 10 home runs on the season, 255, 320, 394, creates runs at league average. So not the Andrew McCutchen of old, but for 4,300 and not that much ownership anyway on DK, I can get there in the middle of stacks if I need to offset some of that popularity. So I think it's in a spot you can be enthusiastic about, and then just focus on differentiating some of the combinations while you're getting to those top 3 hitters. So I think it makes a ton of sense. And we mentioned no real love for grabbing Rockies. Is that a flat 0 Rockies stacks for you going against Woodruff here?
Stacks, yeah, but Crone, Bryant, Blackman, those guys can fall in lineups. If I end up with like a 2-man, 3-man mini stack for the top 4, really without Iglesias, the 1, 3, 4, I wouldn't lose any sleep. But I'm not that enthralled with the full team.
Okay, so yeah, take a few random bats as they fall, but not really targeting the stack. I think that makes sense, and I assume how that's falling in my sort as well. I didn't specifically look. Before we move on, let's talk about Odd Shopper. You guys have heard about it before. It's linked at the top of Stokastic. There's a tab there that says Odd Shopper. That's the easy way to find it. Or you can type it in your little internet bar there on whichever internet browser you're using. There's 2 S's in the middle, Odds Shopper, spelled exactly how it sounds, .com. Jump over there. It helps you make your best bets in 30 seconds or less. And it's faster than that. It's like 3 clicks. It's like 2 clicks. If you know what you're looking for, it's going to drill it down and tell you the best possible spot to make that bet for the best price, the best odds, the best money. There's hundreds of bets featured every day. Gives you the edge you need betting player props and game lines across all sports. You can sign up for free right now. There's a link down there in the video description. You gain access to our proprietary data. It helps you make your best bets. We've got expected win percentages up there. We've got ROIs up there. You can sort by those different things, find the best bets that you want to make. It uses the same projections that our DFS system at Stokastic does. So you know that you're getting the best plays. You know that you're getting the best reads on these plays. It features a parlay builder with optimized parlays and arbitrage tool to guarantee risk-free guaranteed profit across sports books. Doesn't get much better than risk-free guaranteed profit. So go over there, check out the arbitrage tool, have fun with the parlay tool, put together some fun, crazy high upside parlays and see if you can hit them. It's a great site. It's going to help you make better bets. Oddshopper.com. Jump over there. Gun, let us move on and talk about, we just did the Rockies and the Brewers. So let's talk about the Giants and the Dodgers. Showdown in California. Giants with Alex Wood on the hill. Interesting enough pitcher, not really drawing a lot of attention. Hate the matchup for him, but I'm curious to hear, would you get to any shares of Alex Wood here? And then Julio Urias on the other side, I'm getting a decent chunk of, and he's projecting out pretty well against this Giants team that strikes out a lot against lefties, but is also pretty deadly against lefties. So what are you doing with the 2 pitchers here? Start us off with Alex Wood.
I'm very trepidatious with both. And I'm in agreement with you. I think both offenses are scary enough that I'm not getting that crazy with. Alex Wood, I just have super bad luck with. Like, he has bad luck with BABIP. But he is fundamentally under-owned, according to our top pitchers tool. 8.6% chance to be a top 2 pitcher on DK with only 4% ownership, so half of that. So you can kind of meet in the middle and still have positive leverage on the field. And I get it. I understand it. Back end of the 150 for me, not going to be in the 20 max or nothing like that. And kind of the same with Julio Urias, although I do think Urias' floor ceiling ratio-wise is higher. Definitely could justify, but man, almost 10K. I'd just rather put that 10K towards a down payment on a brand new Garrett Cole or a Brandon Woods or something like that. But he does give us he's coming in over-owned, so I definitely undercut that. I'll probably be around 15%.
Yeah, he's the spot I'm wrestling with on the FanDuel slate. He's 9,200 over there. He's drawing 7.6% ownership. And like I said, he is projecting out fairly well for me. So I'm having a little bit of a trouble keeping a lid on him, but it's 7% ownership. I'm okay with that if I get a little bit above 10, above 12. I do think there are enough strikeouts. I think he's got enough talent. I get concerned around the depth of start. I get concerned around their offensive upside against him and all these things that we called out. But I can hang my hat on the 24.3% strikeout rate, the 11.8% swinging strike rate, and the high strikeout rate of the Giants against left-handed pitching, 24.4% against lefties, 26 in baseball out of 30 teams. So it's dicey, but I think on the Urias side of things, I'll get there. I will not have that many shares of Alex Wood. I just grabbed a couple to put him in there just to say I've got him, because 24% strikeout rate type of a guy and a serviceable, capable pitcher, just deadly lineup on the other side, tends to get BABIP to death, like you said. Do the concerns about these offenses and these going against these lefty pitchers lead you into stacking either of these offenses?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I love the so the Giants are definitely, they're annoying to stack, especially when they project well or project decently owned. Today, they're not that owned. They're at 0.5%. They're literally down there with the Rockies against Woodruff. So you don't have to give up much to be there. I know the pinch hit, the platoons, all that stuff. Gabe Kapler is going to annoy us. But I think because I don't have to give up too much of my 150, 5-6% to get there, I think that's fine. Slater, Flores, Ralph Longoria. I love that lane. You can spin the wheel, make a deal with some guys like Mercedes, guys like that. But I like that 1 through 4 quite a bit. Certainly some pinch hits going to happen once we get Urias out of there. But I think we can give up a low enough amount of lineup equity to be there. And the same with the Dodgers, except the Dodgers will not be as low owned, but they're still pretty low owned for being the Dodgers. 2.7% overall ownership, probably because a lot of money is going into pitching tonight. Mm-hmm. But this is an all-star team. And I say this every Saturday, this game's going to play as a day game. And we tend to forget that as an East Coast, based population, I guess, in here. So this is a hotter hitting environment. I think Mookie, Trey, Freeman, Will Smith, all those make sense. It's a Sunday afternoon lineup once you get past those guys, the Albertos, Muncies, Trace Thompsons, whatnot. But as you saw last night, Cody Bellinger hiding in the bottom lineup, grand slam upside, still a lineup worth attacking and worth getting to. So yeah, I'm there on both teams, and they're very easy to give up, a combined 8, 9, 10% of your lineups and be well above the field.
Yeah, they're both low owned, and there's a lot of interesting bats on both sides that are low owned. And on the DK slate, everybody on the Dodgers is under 10, so I'm not really worried about that, and well under for the most part. On FanDuel, it's really Mookie and Trey Turner drawing a ton of attention. I love the fact that Freddie Freeman is under 1% owned on both sides. I don't care about lefty with a hitter like Freddie Freeman. We talk about it all the time with some of these premium lefty bats. Those tend to be good spots to target for tournaments because people just skip them. If they blow up Alex Wood, you're going to get a righty out of the bullpen most likely for at least a plate appearance or 2 for Freddie Freeman. And I just don't sweat the lefty. So I'm happy to get there. And then interesting, at least you get a couple with, like you said, the Sunday afternoon lineup. You pick up 3 additional second basemen in the back end of that lineup, second base, third base for Alberto and Muncy, second base outfield for Gavin Lux. So you get some positional flexibility, some cheap hitters there. On the Giants side, I want to call out Tyler Estrada and Yerman Mercedes from the 6 and 7 spots. A lot of power in Mercedes' bat, and then Tyler Estrada spot has just been kind of interesting. A little bit of run creation, a little bit of speed, a little bit of pop in that bat. So if I'm stacking those guys, I don't mind getting to those bats. Even Luis Gonzalez has been somewhat interesting, and he's very, very cheap on both sites. So he's easy to get to. So both of these lineups stack pretty much top to bottom for me. I'll probably have tempered shares just because of how much I'm getting to some of the pitching on, particularly on the Julio Urias side. So that'll be a bit of an inflection point for me. But let's move on. We've got about 15 minutes. We got 3 games to go, so we're fine on time. If you guys have questions out there, drop them in the chat. I'll see if I can catch them.
I got a question, Terry.
Yeah, jump in, man.
How do we not have 200 likes? Right?
Ooh, that's 5 likes. Around
told you guys
watching.
The likes equates your ISO as a community. If you don't have a 200 ISO, you don't hit for power. So I need y'all to hit for power. Smack that like button. Get to 200 plus.
There we go. Yeah, let's see the power come through a little bit. It's starting to shine through a little already. We're getting there. We go. We just got a nice little jump. Somebody just hit us a nice little double. Pumped up the ISO a little
Let's
bit.
go.
Keep them coming. Say 595 of you guys out there. Hit those like buttons. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about some baseball here. There's probably some business to do, but honestly, who cares? We'll get to it. The Angels are taking on the Braves. Patrick Sandoval going for the Angels. Lefty, not drawing that much attention. He's way too expensive at 9,400 on FanDuel. 8,300 makes more sense on DK, but still not all that popular. Kyle Wright, 91 on DK seems a little bit inexpensive. 10.5 seems about right for his quality on FanDuel. Maybe a little high, but I love the matchup. I love the strikeout potential in this Angels lineup. No Mike Trout in this Angels lineup. Really, it's a one-man show. Shohei Ohtani up top. So are you getting to any shares of Patrick Sandoval? And then talk to me about Kyle Wright.
Not really on Sandoval. I left him in the pool, but it doesn't look like I'm getting any.
Yeah.
He's overperforming in terms of ERA versus the advanced metrics, expected ERA, Sierra. The whip is really high. So no, I do have a hankering for the Brave stack. So less incentive for me to get to Sandoval, but Kyle Wright has true upside here. This Angels lineup, as you saw yesterday, this is a strikeout prone lineup. No Mike Trout. You can definitely get into a ceiling game out of Kyle Wright. We saw a couple of those earlier this season. 24% K rate on the season, a sub-4 expected ERA, sub-4 Sierra. Not a stone cold lock top end guy for me, but he's coming in as I think my 5th highest owned pitcher right now. So I'm absolutely there for Kyle Wright exposure, especially on DK at 9.1.
Yeah, he's one of my he's in that group of like my top end pitchers here, projecting out slightly under the the supreme top end aces, the Garrett Coles of the world, but definitely in play for the ownership. 8.1% over on FanDuel because he's expensive over there, and I would want to be there around 20% at 9,100 on the DK slate. I just think there's that much upside going up against what I do not think is a good lineup anymore, and one that has plenty of strikeouts. So with that in mind, knowing the Angels are going up against a good pitcher here, and we don't really love the lineup, they are very cheap. They are very low owned. They do still have Shohei Ohtani up at the top. If Taylor Ward comes back to life, they've got him hitting second, Jared Walsh hitting fourth. Not much else. Are you getting to any stacks of these guys, or is it more taking some shots with one-offs here and there?
Yeah, one-offs and maybe like some 3-mans. Ohtani, Ward, Walsh would be the bulk of my interest. We saw a homer from VR last night, but that's about it. I think Ohtani and Walsh will be the more sought-after guys in my lineups. And Ohtani is still 6.1K on DK. It's hard to get there, but hey, 4-5 implied at bats in a decent enough plus park for him. Worth having some shares of.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. Grab a few shares. I would probably be under the field on the FanDuel ownership at 13.1% because he would really only be coming up as a one-off. I'm not getting very much of this team. I am getting a good share of Kyle Wright. So where it comes up as a one-off, I would take him, but it'll probably be under that 13%. I think we're both probably into the Braves here. They projected out, I think, number 2 on my power index. I think you mentioned that you were looking to stack them. It looks like really only Acuna is getting any love on the DK slate. A little bit more on FanDuel because, as usual, they're a little bit cheaper over there, easier to get to. So you're getting around 10% on like Swanson and Riley, and then Acuna up over 20%. On DK, it's really just Ronald, 15-ish%, and then everybody well under 10. So talk to me about the Braves. How much are you targeting them?
Yeah, we have them at 3.6% owned as a stack. I didn't realize. Okay, I have 14%. I didn't think it was gonna be that high. I might need to dial that down. I'm gonna let it roll. Screw it.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I like this lineup quite a bit, and we've been saying it all year. Behind Sandoval's bullpen that serves up homers, so if you can stay away from the Raisel Iglesias, there are some positive matchups to be had here. Past Acuna, Matt Olson, and Austin Riley, my two favorite guys to target here, and then Travis d'Arnaud. I would say that the main pushback with the Braves stack today is, my goodness, they are expensive on DraftKings.com. That 1 through 4, really that 1 through 5, average over 5,300 per. So it might take away from your double ace lineups, your Coles and Woodruffs, but that's why a dopey like me is going to be playing a lot of Max Meyer.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to lead a lot of people right there. Yeah, if you grab the top 5 off the top of that lineup, you throw Travis d'Arnaud in there as your catcher, you're talking about 5,540 average across salary. Even if you drop it down, say you skip d'Arnaud, grab another one of those catchers that we talked about, and go to a $4,100 Duvall, $4,000 Ozuna, you're not saving all that much from a $4,900 Travis d'Arnaud. So very expensive spot, but I think very worth getting to. 3 guys well above average in my home run model, several guys right at the average, including Duvall and Ozuna from the back end. I love the low ownership and the low prices on those guys on the FanDuel slate. Adam Duvall for $2,400, Ozuna for $2,800. Sign me up for that. Even Michael Harris, $3,500 on FanDuel, no ownership to speak of. So back end of this lineup, I can get to quite a bit to offset some of the popularity that isn't really worrying me all that much anyway. Let's move on. We've got the Nationals. Anibal Sanchez on the mound, drawing a little bit of ownership, 3%-ish for 5,000 on the FanDuel slate, or the DK slate rather. Not that much to speak of at 6,400 on FanDuel. Madison Bumgarner, similar story, around 3% on DK, 6,900. Not that much ownership on FanDuel at 78. Any love for either one of the pitchers?
I think you could justify some Anibal Sanchez as a SP2 of 5K. D-backs don't really blow you away. Some strikeouts to be had. If he gets a strikeout per inning, gets you 5 innings, maybe steals a win. I think at 5K, that's cheaper than most of the bats I want to roster tonight. So don't give me negatives, and we got a chance. So definitely not one of my top 6 owned pitchers, but he's going to be in the back end of the pool. Mad Bum, I don't do that.
Yeah, I threatened at the beginning of the season that I would be rostering him from time to time, and it's just gotten less and less frequent, and I talk about him less and less frequently. So yeah, not going there. I do get it on Anibal though. Like you said, 5,000. That's lower than that average that I just gave of the top 5 hitters in the Braves lineup. So definitely is interesting for what it can help you buy. And he doesn't project out that poorly for me. He's kind of right in the middle of the pack. Like he's right next to Lance Lynn. If you're looking at different pitchers on the DK slate, that's using FanDuel scoring on my board here, but who cares? I mean, it works similarly. So going up against an Arizona lineup that 22.6% strikeout rate in the split, below average creating runs by 8% in the split. I get it. There's some upside there. So for 5,000, you can justify it. What about stacks? There's a little bit of ownership going to Lane Thomas for 2,700 on the DK slate, 2,300 on FanDuel. He was showing a little bit of power. Juan Soto, Josh Bell, Nelson Cruz, all flashing a little bit of power for me. So I might get a couple out of the middle of the lineup, full stacks here, but it's not really a priority for me. You're getting to any Nats, and then what about the Diamondbacks on the other side?
Yeah, I actually had to dial back the Nats because my model just loves or it hates Mad Bum, but it tends to get me in trouble. But yeah, I think Lane Thomas makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of value here too. Sub 3K on Lane Thomas for DK. And another guy that I had way more than I should have, and I had to go and manually tweak that, was Maikel Franco at 2,200 on DK, 21 on FanDuel. Decent RBI spot. I mean, he's behind a bunch of high OBP guys: Soto, Josh Bell, Nelson Cruz. I just don't trust him.
How's that worked out for him all season long? That's
exactly.
part of the problem.
But I mean,
29% below average creating runs. Ouch.
Yep.
But I get it. I get why you're getting there at 2,200.
If I'm not going to touch Mad Bum, there's a reason. So I do have some Franco, but I definitely had to throttle that down, put a governor restrictor plate on that stock car. But yeah, I won't probably get the 5 minutes, but I'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. What about Mr. Spoiler down the bottom of the lineup, Victor Robles? Every time I completely skip him when I am getting to this team, it seems like he does something wacky, like steals a base. He's only got 2 home runs and 10 stolen bases on the season. So I must have just done it like both those times where he hit those home runs, and it's just sticking in my head. But something about this dude, I feel like I get him wrong a lot, and he's got that weird wraparound upside from time to time for super cheap and no ownership. Would you tack him onto any stacks, or are you just focused on the top middle part of the line?
I might leave him in the pool and just let the projection do, but I'm there with you. I had the same thing with Josh Harrison. He's homered the last 2 times. I've literally called him out to not homer, and he's homer. So
there you go.
They watch.
Pesky type guys from the bottom of the lineup drive me nuts. But yeah, that would be a very low priority. What about Diamondbacks on the other side? A little bit of pop around like a Christian Walker, maybe him and like Ketel Marte, Alec Thomas, but it would probably be restricted to 3-man's one-offs from me. They are drawing a good amount of popularity here against Anibal. So are you getting any Diamondbacks?
Yeah, cheap enough. I think Ketel Marte's and is probably my favorite. Christian Walker can get there. Make no mistake about it. I'm not on Anibal Sanchez for like talent or anything like that. It's just he's really cheap, and I don't think he's he hasn't proven to be a super gas can yet. So I'm just looking for averageness, average carpentry skills to survive here. And the same thing with the D-backs could pick on a guy who struggled to find a job for a reason. Maybe they're a little bit overowned, but I can definitely agree with the sentiment of getting there. I do have exposure to some 5-man stacks, and I have a lot of Ketel Marte, Walker, and David Peralta as some of my focal points.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to be focused around those guys. Maybe if you go all the way down, if you're grabbing a bunch of these guys, you get to 6% on Carson Kelly, interesting catcher, 3,500, a little bit of pop from time to time. So he's typically more interesting when he's hitting up in the top end of the lineup for cheap, but I can see getting there if you're stacking some Diamondbacks. Not a priority stack for me though. Like I said, I think I'd be undercutting the field. On FanDuel, they're just drawing too much ownership. They're in the 20s, and I just can't get there with that much enthusiasm. I agree. It's not anything about Anibal Sanchez. It's just about, I don't love these hitters. I don't love getting to this team when everybody is going there, and they are drawing a lot of popularity. So kind of that kind of a situation for me. Ballpark drawing a little bit of attention. I'm getting away from it. On the last game on the board, we've got the Rangers with Taylor Hearn on the mound following, I think, Matt Bush opening the game. James Kaprielian on the hill for the Athletics. Kaprielian drawing a little bit of attention, 5,800, another one of those punt plays on the DK slate. Are you getting any of the Rangers pitching? Let's start there.
No.
Okay, good. What about Kaprielian, 5,800? Do you get to him at all? Low strikeout guy going up against a lineup that was disappointing early on and has maybe come on a little bit in the last like month and a half. So you're getting any Kaprielian against the Rangers?
No, Rangers are going to come out pretty lefty heavy, and that's really Kaprielian's weakness. And I like to pick on him with these lefties.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. I get, if you're shopping around for a low cost, low-ish owned pitcher, I get why people would land on him for that $5,800 price tag, but he just doesn't project out that well for me. The Rangers aren't difficult to strike out by any means, but he's only a 15.2% strikeout guy, 5.35 xFIP, a 4.39% home run rate. So I'm much more inclined to look at some low on Rangers bats here. Who do you like in the Rangers lineup, and are you getting any full stacks?
Corey Seager, one of my favorite home run calls in this particular matchup. A couple stacks for sure. Semien Seager, Low Garcia would be the focal point. And this is a good spot theoretically for Cole Calhoun as well. You're hoping for 2 at-bats, maybe, implying for 2.5. But it makes sense in this matchup. So, yeah, I do have some Ranger stacks.
Yeah, and Calhoun priced reasonably enough that if you're only getting 2 at-bats, 0.5% ownership, 3,200 on DK, 0.5%, 2,300 on FanDuel. Definite home run upside there, 11 on the season in 316 plate appearances, right side of his splits. So seems like a good spot. I can get there. Back end of the lineup, I don't want to totally rule out getting the shares of like Ezekiel Duran for 2,000 on the FanDuel slate, multi-position eligible, 2,800 on DK multi-position. Decent enough prospect, hasn't really flashed all that much, 2 home runs, 2 stolen bases, and 72 plate appearances, but he's at least reasonably interesting if you need a cheap back end bat. So I would keep him in the player pool, but it's really about the top end. I would throw Leody Taveras in there as well, hitting 5th. On the other side of this game, team I pretty much never get to these days, maybe a little bit of their power bats in one-off situations. Any love for the A's, knowing that we're not getting the Rangers pitching here?
Yeah, no. Even though I like to pick on Taylor Hearn sometimes, I just don't go after the Athletics here. I think if you turn him around against lefties, Laureano, Murphy, Seth Brown, Chatty Pendergrass, they can sprinkle in there, fill in some holes at dirt cheap where you need them. But I wouldn't really want to dedicate full onslaught stacks.
Yeah, same here. I don't really have all that much to add around those guys. I think you called out the right names there. Before we wrap the show, we got about a minute left. Who's your home run pick for the day? People love those.
Did we get 200 likes? No, I'm gonna need 200 likes. But the top with
I
sample,
trust the people to get us those last 5 bucks.
Judgy, probably Matt Carpenter. I'll go if I had to put my name. I'll go Carpenter and Corey Seager. Bomb Detector likes Judgy, and without sample size, it likes Nolan Jones, Trace Thompson, and Pascantino.
Okay. Those are some interesting calls. Judge, top of my board as well. Once again, he was last night. He got there. Don't like making him my home run call. I'll drop down to another Yankee. I'll just go homer and say Anthony Rizzo from the 3 spot in my model there. Other high-end names, some obvious guys, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Ronnie Acuna, Josh Donaldson up there. So the Yanks drawing a little bit of love. And Christian Walker, I wanted to call out since I said I wasn't getting to much of Arizona. He is sitting in the, looks like 10 spot in my home run model. Actually 9 because Stanton's not playing. So Christian Walker may be a little bit more interesting than I thought there in the Arizona lineup. That's going to bring us to the end of the show. Guys, one more like out there. Somebody hit that like, get that ISO over 200. Thank Gun for throwing that home run pick in there. That one's obviously going to connect. Gun, tell the people where they can find it.
Twitter and YouTube /Gundacker.
Excellent. We skipped over the Stokastic Hall of Fame because I'm an idiot and I forgot there was another plug in there, or I think I said screw it or something like that. But the Stokastic Hall of Fame at Stokastic HOF. If you finish in the top 3 in a tournament with more than 5,000 people, send us a tweet over there. Send the screenshot. We'll flash them on shows that are more responsible than the shows that I host, and you guys can get up there and you get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. So pretty good deal for finishing in the top spot in the tournament. You win a little bit of money and you get a free month over there if you tweet it to Stokastic HOF. Make sure you guys are tuning in tomorrow, 12:15 to 1:45. We've got Aton and Eric for MLB Live Before Lock. Then 2 to 3, we've got Jason Floyd and Chris Pinnell for NASCAR Live Before Lock. So 2 quality shows to tune into tomorrow. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, all those good things, the YouTubes and whatnot. We appreciate you guys hanging out. This was a lot of fun. Good luck tonight.